Welcome to the Coworking Values Podcast. I'm Emily Breeder. If you're a community manager struggling with reaching your audience, our latest offering is designed for you. In this 3-month cohort, we will help you build your community, learn practical strategies, and stay motivated with personalized guidance. Join us to transform your workflow and strengthen your community management skills. Look in the description of this podcast for more information on how to sign up.
Hello, folks, and welcome to, is this episode 3 or 4? We should check the stuff before I think it's episode 4 of Renegades of Flow.
It's 4. It's definitely 4.
See, you are the brains of the operation. So, just to kick off with, a lot of what we talk in these episodes is stuff that is either comes up in our 12-week community builder cohort sprint, or we'd like to put in there, so we just talk about it here and then it finds its way in. So, what do you think? What do you think is coming out of that cohort that we have running currently, Emily?
Well, I think that one of the biggest things is that people are very hesitant to commit to new systems. They're reluctant to let go of the ones that are broken and not working, which is not totally surprising, to be honest.
I have a very real-life immediate example of that, is because my friend Martin from Jammy Digital told me a couple of things about the videos I make every day. And even though I knew his advice was amazing, because a couple of his clients, in 6 months, he's gotten to 1 million views on YouTube. I know that sounds very sensational. So this is like direct information from someone who knows what they were doing. I was so reluctant to change this is the takeaway, folks. I make all my videos landscape because it's more comfortable for me. But what really works online is the vertical. And there's a lot less production because you do it vertically. And I was like so unwilling to let go of what I was doing, even though I knew it was better. And it was because of conversations like this, I thought, just get on with it. And since I made that flip, just those videos are going way significantly better online. They've gone from like 100 views to 500 plus views on each thing. And what I noticed was how reluctant I was to change, even though I knew exactly what to do. So there's a real life personal example.
So what was it that made you finally flip your phone over the right way?
I didn't want to flip my phone over because, I've got quite a shiny forehead, and it means that like the kind of domeness of my head was more apparent, probably only more apparent to me because, people have seen me online loads of times. And I was just, get over it, Mitchell. Come on, And I'd have rather a few hundred people saw my video and got something out of it than hardly anyone saw it and never got anything out of it because I'm worried about the way my glowing forehead looks, which is the same glowing forehead I walk around in public with all day. So it was almost embarrassment, So I just knew it was the thing to do. And to be serious, what made me change is because I know how many times in life it has taken me ages to change in the past. And then when I did change, everything worked. So it was that holding on to the familiar and stepping into the unfamiliar. I mean, we're talking about videos here on an iPhone, but, and just being, maybe brave is too big enough of work. Just like going, let's see if that works. And if it doesn't, we'll try something else, because I'm not doing open heart surgery on the person with the cure to global warming. I'm just making a video about email.
I mean, that's true, but I feel like that's also coming from a sort of a sense of perfectionism. How many times do you think people just walking around every day might think, I'm not going to start that project until I've lost 10 pounds, or I'm not going to commit to that event because I don't have the perfect shoes for my outfit, And really, these are just excuses not to participate, not to show up. And it makes things a little bit easier when you rationalize, okay, there is a reason, even if it's not a very good reason. There is a reason why I could get away with not doing this.
Yep. With the actual like putting stuff online or putting yourself out there or whatever it is I just know, but now I've kind of realized that how fast the internet moves. So I know, like Chris Marr, who we did a podcast with. I read Chris, I'm in this little coaching community and I read Chris Marr's stuff a lot. But I never sit there and like spell check it or anything, and it's like I read it and I get the information and he communicates really clearly, but I don't like give him a score out of 10. And I thought, you know what, just doing, writing online, if you do spot a mistake, you can just go back and do it. And you can sort of move at a less perfectionistic pace, if that's a word, and just get more data. You get more helpful stuff the other side of like moving than you do preparing. And I spend so much. I mean, that's one of the things you've had to drag me out of is the endless preparation and into the doing thing.
Yeah. I think I've heard it called staying speed, and I read that many many years ago in a Thich Nhat Hanh book, where it's the rate at which you can keep going without like needing to stop and recharge, or just putting one foot in front of the other. That speed is the baseline, the speed at which you can move without thinking about it too hard, just getting things done one after another. And I think that the not thinking about it after a certain point, after you've done all the planning, after you've put everything in place and the road is laid out in front of you, just you don't need to think about it anymore. Just follow the steps you've laid out. And it's really hard to let go of that. It's sort of like the difference between when you're writing and when you're editing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I know I always like write and edit as I go, and I know you're supposed to do it the other way around, but I've just got really good at writing and editing at the same time. And part of that is because of Grammarly, and a lot of my editing is about spelling and dyslexia and stuff like that. But I've been using that non-stop for more than 10 years now, and it has just I've just developed this habit of writing and editing really fast as I go. And that's not just writing articles; it's because I use that in everything I'm using and typing. I'm using Grammarly, so I've become very used to it. Whereas at the beginning, it would take me like 5 years to write, 500 words. That
Yeah.
wasn't a Grammarly ad. That was just a example of this. This podcast is not brought to you by Grammarly, and other writing apps are available.
Just use what works. If you've got a system, stick with it. Don't change it.
So, talking of systems, Emily, can we talk a bit? I mean, I know we're going to talk. I know I asked permission because we already established we're going to talk about this. Is we talked in a previous podcast about the system of capture, and now there's so we end up in this conversation with a lot of people, and particularly the people in the cohort, is what tool are you going to use? And I know anyone who's been listening to me for ages knows I'm always obsessed with the most recently published Kanban board project tool, listing app. Does it have mind maps in it or documents and stuff like this? And one thing I've noticed is for nearly 2 years now, I've been using Upbase, which we got from AppSumo, which is it's not the, I don't want to say it's the best one, but it's the most simplest Kanban project tool I have used out of all of them so far, because it's aimed at freelancers and micro businesses, not aimed at enterprise level small businesses. But also the obsessing over whether to use Trello, Asana, Monday, Lord knows what, Basecamp. People get lost in that rather than like what they're actually going to put into it. Could you? I know you have something to say about that. So, like, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it matters what tool you use, and I talked about this at length in the past too. That use whatever works for you, whatever works best for your client, whatever is simplest. Don't get the most comprehensive, feature-rich application you can, because that will have a learning curve that might slow you down from using it. I would say just get the simplest one that you can possibly get away with. And sometimes that system of capture is just post-its in a diary. I find, of course, that that particular system is somewhat prone to loss because, I mean, you can lose it. It could get burned up in a fire. You could leave it on roof of your car and just drive off and then you never see it again. I mean, it's best, in my opinion, to have one that's at least backed up online in some way so that you can access it in if it's not next to you or if you lose it. But other than that, um, one system that I use frequently, and I know a lot of people that I do, I have a notebook that I write all my notes into, and then I check in with my system at the beginning and the end of my day. I convert my notes over, and it's not like I know that on immediate hearing of that, you might think, well, that's just more work for me. But really, it's just you have to have a relationship with your system of capture. And that relationship requires regular meetings, even if it's just for 5 minutes in the morning and then maybe 10 minutes in the evening, and then you set up your next day. That 15 minutes a day will, in the end, save you hours of trying to remember what you were trying to keep in your head. You should commit all of that stuff to your system of capture. You should trust it and you should have a relationship with it.
That writing, I've you know tested lots of things, and what I've noticed is some things work for a period of time, and then I just change. So I go and do something else. And what's working really well right now is carrying around this notebook, which has a page for the year, and then it has another page for 4 months of just notes on month one, two, three, and four, and then it has a week. And I can just carry that around and drop ideas into it and be able to see where I intend to go. And then I actually write out in the similar to you in each day thing. And there's something, some people think it's being too romantic, but there is something about physically writing stuff down and crossing it off. And so I do, like you, I do both things. And in that book, Making Ideas Happen, one of the things that's always stayed with me is there's one guy who ran a creative agency in New York, and I can't remember his name. And he had one set of pencils on the right hand side of his desk and another set of pencils on the left hand. And he wrote out everything he did with one set of pencil, everything he was going to do with one set of pencils when he came in. And when he left, he wrote out in the other set of pencils what he'd got done. And that was the way he got his brain to work. And that looks nuts. I love it, but it looks nuts. But if that makes you more, personally creative, efficient, or whatever word you want to use, I'm all in for that.
Well, I mean, it's also tactile. It's present. It's taking your ideas and putting it into the grounded real world. So I've heard that tip before. A lot of people are taught that when they're studying, always use the same pen to take your initial notes, and then use a different pen when you're copying it out again before you take a test. They don't really teach those study skills here in the U.S. anymore. Um, and it's really hard to convince kids now to do that because they're just like, I'll just catch the recap on video later. No, you're not going to retain that. There's something about the act of thinking it, writing it down, giving it a voice, and then condensing it and organizing it for easy scanning later. And then you can kind of imprint that in your mind by using a specific pen or using a specific notebook or using a specific application or tool.
So what do you do? So we both encountered this. Is when there's someone that's running a community or a project or a co-working space, and a lot of the people we spend time with are one or maybe two person businesses or operations, and they just get really overwhelmed because there's the business, there's the family, there's the members, there's the marketing, there's the finance. Like like today, like sitting here recording this, everything seems urgent because there's something we need to do about all of those things I just mentioned. But when people come to you and go, "Oh my god," like how do they defragment their existential overhead?
The first thing you need to do is just basically an info dump. Don't worry about organization. Basically, you're putting it all in your backlog. This is just the digest of everything that you're trying to accomplish. Your projects, your tasks, everything, and just start using it. Put it in the backlog and then start prioritizing them. I use the urgent slash important methods, sometimes called the Eisenhower method. because it's extremely simple and easy to remember. Do the urgent and important tasks first. Any task under 2 minutes, regardless of importance, do immediately. And then you move to important but not urgent. And then the non urgent, non important tasks, just don't do them. Or just leave them in your backlog. And sometimes things like that are just ideas for the future, or projects that you might want to get into, or it just doesn't have enough information yet. Just leave them in your backlog. Don't worry about bringing them into your doing, what you're doing and on an everyday basis. If that answers your question.
Absolutely. So some things that are urgent are not very interesting, like tax, and some things that are important are not urgent. This happens to me a lot. I don't really need to do that, but that's the thing I need to do today. And when you're in that kind of mind bend, I mean, the grown-up answer is like just make a decision and do something. But like, what? How can you sort of wrangle out of that? Because particularly when you're really overwhelmed, deciding which next thing to do is really hard.
Those kind of things, even though they're important, really what you're thinking about is your emotions around it, and you're not getting past it. The way to move forward for me would be you set the pieces in place, pull up the information, and then kind of take a short walk to decompress, and then without thinking about it, sit down and start doing it. And a lot of people, including myself, have issues with this from time to time. You feel like, oh no, this is a really analytical task. I have to, fully understand it in my head before I start. But oftentimes, especially with things like taxes, you can't. The tax law is way too complex. You're not necessarily an accountant. What you really just need to do is have the numbers available, and maybe get on a call with your accountant and have them hold your hand through it. A little bit of company could help with that too, but you're not incapable of doing the task. You're just unwilling to step over those emotions and not deal with them. But you can, because honestly, if you just say, this is just my paranoia at getting in an audit or something like that, then you can't resolve that before you file your taxes. You just have to file your taxes correctly.
That reminded me of like, I mean, we talk about this all the time in co-working assembly and the writing club and other cohorts and other groups, is doing stuff with people, particularly when you're a one or two person outfit, is really really important. Because something I've noticed is when we moved to Spain, I didn't go to the right club every week, so I didn't get my little injection of creator writing infusion. How are you working on that kind of thing? And I wouldn't say I was lonely, but I didn't have that thing to go to talk about with those people, so I had to find it somewhere else, and I joined the online thing. But the, I I haven't measured it, and I haven't read enough research papers, but I swear that you can walk around your house for all day thinking about something, or you can sit down and talk to someone for 20 minutes, and you will just save so much time sharing that idea, problem, block.
Well, and it can feel like you're in control of it when you're thinking about it. Like it feels like, okay, this activity makes me feel more on top of it. But really, if you'll pardon the expression, it's just mental masturbation. You aren't going to get anywhere with that thinking process. Just sit down and do the work. That's why you have to step over those thoughts and say, okay, you don't get my energy right now. I'll think about you after the task is done. And a lot of the time, I promise you, after the task is done, all of that thinking process has completely lost its energy and its motivation to be thought about because it's done. It's over with. None of it was necessary.
That is very true. And also, just before we close, something you made me do is like write out processes, because I just
Yeah.
would do it, and like posting the podcast takes about 15 minutes now, and 13 minutes of that is editing the show notes and getting links and stuff like that, because we upload the transcript and does this and does that, and because everything's set up in Canva, and I don't think about what I'm doing. I go download from Google Drive, upload to HappyScribe, get the transcript down, put the transcript in the AI thing, get it to do this, and then the short code. So I press 2 buttons and it puts the instruction in the AI thing to like make the show notes from the transcript, and I check it all. And even down to like, don't use these words, use these words, and mention this person like here and add this in, is all set up at the beginning. So it's really fast. It's still work, but that, I think that would have taken me like an hour and a half before, because I was like sort of flying blind. So I know we haven't spoken about this out loud, but like, sitting down and making a process for each thing you do on a regular basis might take you an hour and part of that time is resistance, part of that time is overthinking it. But then when you put it all down, I actually have a list in Apple Notes that I tick off every time I do that. And I'm sure there's a cooler way to do it, but
It
Apple
doesn't need
Notes,
to be more complicated than that at all.
Apple Notes is always near me. And I just know to look for it in that. And it's not like I heavily use Apple Notes for things. It's just that was there at the time when you said you should sort this out.
Yeah. Well, and just like I said before, just use the simplest tool at your disposal. Don't use the coolest one, the most advanced one, the most, just use what you have and don't worry about the rest. If at some point you need to switch to something else, then find something else to switch to. But if it works, don't break it. And as for the checklists overall of just documenting your processes of how you do things, it may seem on an ordinary day, I've got this, I know this, I'll remember this. But then there's that one day when you're completely drained or you've got something personal going on and you must get it done. And it's much simpler just to follow the checklist than it is to dredge up all of the things that you have to do when your thinking is completely clear.
Lovely. Talking of clear, I haven't got a segue there, but folks, we are at the end of this episode, and if you type into your favorite search engine, Coworking Values Podcast, it will come up with all the places we are on the internet. And the best place to be is if you go to, we're on Substack where we host this now, and there's also an email facility there. So as well as getting alerts and notifications when it comes up wherever you listen to this podcast, you can get an email there, and then we have extensive show notes there of all the apps, gadgets, the cohorts we're mentioning, the events we're doing in London, the workspace design show. There is something else as well, European Co-working Day, which is in May next year, and that's the best point of contact. And we publish on Tuesday and Thursday, and you'll just get an email. You don't need to read every email, but you'll get all the information in the email and be constantly connected to the things that we're up to. Anything else you want to add to that, Emily?
Just to join the Cohort's emailing list, because we'll have a new cohort opening soon. And if you want to have your hand held by us through those difficult tasks and getting your processes straight and getting some of the best co-working advice that you can get, talk to me and Bernie. You would be able to talk to us several times a month. Have us on chat anytime you need help or support. It's just a really good program and very affordable.
It is. The way we set it up is, because it sounds cute to say in a podcast, it's for the price of a desk in your co-working space. You can get that support and it's on a 3-month basis, because then you can sort of get in, make a big change, and then get out again. You don't have to sign up for the rest of your life. So there's a beginning and an end to it. And we have found that doing things in 3-month sprints, you're able to. What's that energy pace thing you used earlier?
Staying speed. Yes.
Your staying speed for 3 months in terms of excitement and the emotional cycle of change is encapsulated beautifully in that 12-week period. All right, thanks very much for your time and attention today, folks. Google, Bing, Safari, Yahoo, Co-working Values Podcast, and be careful out there. It is a jungle.
Bye, folks.